So nice to be here.
It's so nice to have you.
So nice to be here. So welcome to the second installment of the Adapt and Thrive conversation series. And these conversations are all about me tapping into my network of creatives, educators, healers, about what they've had to do and what they've risen up to do to change their work, to better serve their communities and thrive in their own lives in the times of COVID, in hopes of giving you some more inspiration of, leading yourself through that process. So I'm here today in Harrisonburg, Virginia, with the amazing medicine woman, Connie Magee. And we met a couple years ago in Fayetteville, West Virginia, home of the New River Gorge, best place in the world to climb. And I experienced a really wonderful sound healing event that Connie led, and I got some really deep insight into my processes at that time, and we ended up connecting after and just hanging out and talking for a while, and we've stayed in touch a little bit since, and I've continually felt a pull towards her work, and I'm so very, very grateful to be here sharing some time with you, and for the work that you facilitated in me in the past.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
That means a lot.
So, when I did a little more research into what you're doing, I just found a very sprawling list of modalities that you that you are trained in and that you are facilitating nowadays. And it is quite impressive, and it shows me that you're a person that continues to search and seek and develop and never get comfortable in this place of knowing what you can do, but you're continually evolving. So the place I've been starting all these off is just asking you, what did your life and your life work look like before the whole COVID thing slapped us all in the face?
Oh, wow. Okay, so I was teaching a lot of yoga and sound healing meditation workshops and regular weekly classes in a studio, doing a lot of work outside, and also doing a lot of private retreats, serving sacred medicines, plant and animal medicines, and I do a lot of really in-depth integration work with people. So more than just like showing up for the ceremony, but I provide a lot of pre and post session integration so that I really have a deep understanding of the needs and the intentions, as well as the support that is always needed afterwards to help you make sense of it and to create the changes in your life. And to have it be smoother rather than feeling like you're just kind of like dumped back into your old world and how do I function now?
And then slipping it right back into the old patterns. Because often those experiences are like so powerful that it can be really overwhelming to even approach what you experienced.
Right. And I'm also a body worker. I work with sacred stones and 12 different modalities with my hands and Reiki and crystals and things. So all of that tends to blend according to the needs of the client. And one of the things that I've learned over the years is that any type of healing that we undergo, whether it's psychotherapy or medicine work, there's always got to be some involvement with the actual human body at some point, because the body is our reference point. It's our vector for enlightenment. And it's also the material aspect of self that is the record holder. So even if you have psychologically released an earlier trauma and cried all of the tears and screamed all of the screams and vomited in a bucket and let the story go, there's still an imprint of it somewhere in your tissue. And so this is one of the reasons why I went to acupuncture school and why I always include some body work or at least some reflexology with people, is because we want the healing process to be complete and inclusive. And so we have to include the mind, the body, the soul, the heart, the levels of understanding.
So I'm going to take a slight detour here just out of my own curiosity. So do you find that with different people, they need a different modality in order to fully get that trauma, like unseated from the tissues? Because this is an idea that I think people are getting more comfortable with, is that trauma seats itself in your body tissues, literally, but in terms of like finding that what the person you're working with needs, what is that process like?
Well, it's always guided by the client. And this is one of the reasons why I spend so much time pre-session with someone, as I spend, at least a good long hour and a half in a very thorough intake that is, it involves some depth psychology techniques, a lot of, maybe it might involve some art, it might involve some movement, but it always
some
involves
expressing.
Any way to kind of rattle up some of the things that really need to be expressed, but the client is always the guide. So I'm working within that comfort level first and foremost, and the things that are on the top of their mind and the top of their heart, the things that they perceive to be most in need of healing. So then we just kind of go down whichever rabbit hole seems to be the most rich with charge. We're following polarity. So if it's a really charged issue in your life, you're going to be talking about it a lot, and then we're going to talk about, well, where do you feel this in your body? Can we put this into some feeling sense words? Where does the memory come from? What is your understanding of how is this even serving you in your life? Because there's always that side of it, is what is this pain or trauma actually here to teach you? And so in working with a multi-pronged, multi-dimensional set of healing tools and techniques, it just gives us a lot of different ways to access and to help the person be their own healer. Because that's ultimately my goal, is to show the person how they can have their own, that they are their own safe container.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, there's so much that I could ask more about in the last bit you shared, but I want to, I'm going to make kind of a rough segue here, because we are talking about felt experience as we're going through these things, and like everybody had their felt experience of when COVID was arriving. Yeah. Right? And we were realizing that, oh my God, this is changing everything. So before we get to the stage of how you adapted to your work, like what was your felt experience like when you saw all this arrive, when you saw people's lives changing, your life changing? Like, how did that land on you?
Quite frankly, it's hard to not tap into what's happening in the collective. I'm not a big news watcher. That's one of the things that I have let go a lot of. I haven't had a TV for over 20 years, and
nice.
I'm really just pulling myself more and more off of social media and off of just like being on a screen. Yeah. I'm on it as much as I need to be, but I would stay just enough in touch just to see what was happening. Like, okay, what can we do and what can't we do? Is the country really shut down? Just to kind of understand what are the actual rules right now. And trying not to dive too deep into the stories of the tragedy, and not in a way of avoiding it, but whatever we give our attention to, we're feeding. And I knew that I could best be of service to myself and to the people that were going to be coming to me by keeping my container as clean as possible. And so for me, what that looked like was turning all media off as much as possible and going out into my yard and planting more medicine plants and tending to my land and resting. I caught up on my rest.
Yeah. So it sounds like you automatically had this sense of like you needed to gear up by getting more clean, more clear, and more strong in your healer role.
For sure.
So, because you knew you were going to have to serve people as their intensity was ramping up. So in doing that, you sensed there were some boundaries that needed to go up so you could keep your energy safe and strong. Didn't digest too much media, didn't engross in all the narratives flying around. It was like, let's fortify this, let's get strong in this so I can show up fully for your people.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
And actually, one of the first things that I did when COVID became a real actual thing that was going to affect America, the first thing I did was to serve myself a cycle of convo frog medicine.
Wow.
So I knew that I needed to just make sure that my immune system and my health and everything was as clean and clear and strong as it could be. And it provided me a lot of mental clarity to kind of deal with all of this influx of just, a lot of it's drama. I mean, there's actual trauma going on, but a lot of it is just the pot that has been stirred and continued to be stirred that is just feeding people's fear.
Right.
And so fear is going to put its fingers into us and cause all kinds of diseases that are not COVID related. So the clients that I've been working with are healthy and unaffected, but a lot of people are realizing the need to really and truly engage in deep and meaningful and permanent effective healing processes, rather than the Band-Aid, or I'll do it when I'm done with this project, or it's not really that bad.
Yeah, I think that's one of the huge positives is like it forced so many people to finally take a look at what role does self-care play in their life? How much energy are they giving to that?
Yeah.
What can they be doing in order to increase their own resilience instead of looking towards an external source for that?
Yeah.
So this is all very good. This is very good. So with that, so now I feel like I have a good idea of what gear you shifted into when all this arrived. So how did that lead to how you started changing your work? Or you mentioned you had to keep up on the rules to play by, which there's always a rule book. We gotta function within the container most of the time. But how did you have to shift and just change what you do in order to serve your people?
Well, obviously the yoga studios closed, shifted to some online training and some classes and workshops. But mostly my work got a lot more intimate, a lot more one-on-one work and small groups, with people that I screened carefully. And just giving myself permission to do some of the deep work on Connie that I've been putting off because I've been so busy. It was just the biggest gift for me to be to have acupuncture school be shut down for 3 months and not have to drive 5 hours to North Carolina. Yeah. And just be at home. So that was my biggest medicine, was to resettle. And I think that allowed me to be more of a safe and spacious container for the people that came to work with me. Is to provide like this island of calm. Yeah. But I had to create that for myself.
Yes.
In order to offer that.
I'm just in what you've shared so far, I hear a lot of it provided this really good opportunity for you to kind of build yourself up in ways that maybe you couldn't when you were as busy serving people in the way that you were. Yeah. And that's like, I'm learning that more and more too, and all the stuff I do. It's like I'm only as effective as my current state of well-being and as the current depth of my own self-work is. As soon as that gets out of balance, my ability to guide or my ability to just be effective in whatever work I'm applying myself toward goes down. And it sounds like this gave you a big opportunity to like refocus that on yourself more and then allow you to really like hold space for the people that were showing up. Yeah. And to, it's just been I'm fortunate that I don't have a job that forces me to be out, in public any more than I want to be. It's just a matter of like, how many times do I want to go to the store this week? How many times do I want to have to put the mask on? Yeah. I don't want to put the mask on at all, so therefore I'm going to be at home in my yard or out in the woods. Right. So that's a luxury and a blessing, but it's also the result of the choices that I made a few years ago about how I want to live and living with that authenticity. So now I'm not stuck in a job that's wrong for me and pushes me out there in society where I have to be more involved with this thing that's going on. So it's, it was an unintended benefit of making choices that were more aligned with my soul a few years ago, and just trusting that the clients would be there, that the money would flow, and that more opportunities and more creativity would be working at. Trusting.
Yeah.
It's a big one. It's a big one I'm going through at the moment.
Yeah. Well, and that's probably the biggest gift that COVID has given me is it's just, it puts you right here in your life. People, you got to stay home. You've got to see what your life actually looks like and feels like now that you're not running off to go do all of these other things. Right. What does your life actually look and feel like? And
I think that's a good that's a good pause moment to really reflect on. Like, if there's one takeaway from everything so far, it would be to take some time after watching this and really ask yourself that question. What does your life look like? And see where you want to go from there.
Yeah.
Would you have any advice to offer for people who are maybe just starting that self-inquiry process of maybe COVID made them realize that, like, okay, this thing I've built isn't so great. I want to make changes. I want it to feel better. Because, you know, like a lot of people who are immersed in spiritual work, they're familiar with that process. So, but at the beginning, I feel like it can be extremely daunting and vague to someone who's just heading into that territory.
And overwhelming.
Yeah, so maybe if you could speak to that a little bit.
Sure, and I work with a lot of clients. A lot of people come to me for, let's say, body work, or they know that I do sound healing, but they don't have a lot of experience with the deeper work and especially integrating everything, you know. So I kind of start from ground zero with people a lot, and what I always just kind of caution people of, don't think that you have to go and do a whole bunch of things right away or change a bunch of things. Your first job is to learn how to just be present with yourself. And so as such, I tend to teach a lot of meditation and breathwork techniques, and teaching them just how to find that calm place of centeredness, so that then you can ask the real questions of what feels out of place in my life, and then externalizing it. Just writing it, drawing a picture about it, getting it out of the cage of our head and the cage and the rat wheel that we get on, and just writing those down, and then letting that be for a little while, letting that be. And then also making a second list of the things that are working, that we like about our lives. Like, where are all of my pistons firing, and the engine feels smooth over here, but over here it feels like a train wreck. Don't feel like you have to do anything about any of it. Let's just get it all out there on paper. And this gives us kind of the framework and the known things that we can then work with.
Yeah, so it's this process of getting more in touch with what you're intuitively feeling about these different facets of your life, and then starting to just externalizing it in some way and being able to look at the whole picture instead of just being like caught in the throes and the undulations of it all the time.
And then just finding a good guide, a good healer, a good someone who can be an authentic mirror, or even just a sacred neutral witness. Sometimes all we need is somebody to hear us. So like, if I was needing to go through this process right now, I might ask you, can you just listen to me say this out loud in my own voice, using my fifth chakra, using my vibrational instrument that I was born with, to just speak my truth? And can you just hear me and not try to help me solve the problem or offer any advice? I just need you to be present and to be my witness right now. You would not believe how empowering that is. And if there's no one in your life like that, you can do this for yourself in front of the mirror.
That's
and
powerful practice.
Very powerful practice, holding your own eye contact and just being present with whatever comes up, without any judgment, without any need to numb it down with a chemical or run away or explain why. Like, just who cares why? Why doesn't matter in healing. Sometimes it can help us understand, and it's good to have that part of it known. But we can spend our whole life digging for the why. And it still doesn't heal us. So it's just another rat wheel that we get on, and it's like, why? Why did that happen? Why did they do this to me? Why me? And the bottom line is, it doesn't matter.
Because it only leads to a dead end of self-victimization rather than being present with how it's showing up now, and affecting you now.
And so here's the thing that I've learned about doing like really deep healing work with people and with myself, is that when we can surrender the need to know why, or at least push pause on that part of the program, and come into more presence, and come into more groundedness, and come into more of what does the whole me feel like, even if I can only get there for 5 minutes once a day when I meditate, and then the rest of the day I'm a mess, I'm still cultivating that calm center. That is the only place that we have all of our power. And once,
I love that.
And once we can learn to be more comfortable and to spend just a little bit more time in that calm, centered place. It's a place where you've had a nap, where you've done some movement, where you've maybe cried, where you've given some creative expression to whatever your feelings are, and you've done some breath work. Like, that is your essential self. And when we can learn to live there just a little bit longer, we will get these insights, and the whys will reveal themselves. But we don't have to go in there and claw at the earth to find out the why. The why will just kind of like show up as like this flower that peeks over the corner that says, oh, and by the way, here's all of the clarity that you've been looking for in this whole life situation that you couldn't see before because you were trying too hard and thinking that thinking was going to get you there. We got to let that rest. Just come into our center, feel how we're feeling, feel our breath, feel our heart.
Yeah.
And just let that be something that starts to feel good.
Yeah.
And then we'll start going there more often.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So just to summarize all of that, like starting to find regular practices that feel like an authentic expression of you, but take you into that calm center for more time on a consistent basis, gives foreground for the insight to come in about what things need to be changed and adjusted.
Yeah, you said that beautifully. I love that, the foreground for things to come in.
Yeah.
It's like creating...
And it's not a mental space. It's an intuitive felt space.
And it's an invitation rather than a have to.
What do you mean by that, Sarah?
So by creating that cultivated ground where maybe there's nothing growing there, but you're tending to it, you've watered it, you've nurtured it with these self-practices, that becomes the energetic invitation for the things that you want to show up. And it's the opposite, it's the flip side, it's the B side of the other way of going about it, which is to really try hard and to try to figure it out and to fight the fight and to do all of this hard work. Sometimes that can yield us results, but it's going to be a much better ride if we can come to it through the way of softness.
Yeah.
And then letting those things naturally emerge, because the emotions and the damage and the trauma and the triggers will always show back up for us, because they're showing up so that we can heal them. When we allow them to bubble up, when we're in that calm, centered place, that's where we have all our power, that we can actually do something constructive.
Right. Instead of misdirecting the energy that's coming from that thing arising, which is how we get caught in all our toxic patterns anyway.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to discharge the energy and go for a run, or go, kickboxing, or whatever you need to do to burn some of the hot off.
Yes.
The yang, we have to burn that out. And so that's why we do our yoga practice, or whatever we do on a daily, or go for your 10-mile run. And you might get some insights there too. But I have found that my greatest insights and my problem solving and my biggest downloads come from the calm, centered spot, in a place of appreciation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it can serve as a really beautiful balance following intense expressions of yang. Because I certainly understand that. So anyone who's listening to this that needs to get that energy out by exerting their body hard, even if you meditate for 5 minutes after your big exertion and get more in touch with what you're feeling following that exertion, this could, I think, build this ability to read into this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and there's never been a better time. With everything is online now,
Yeah.
Oh, so much good content.
Yeah.
So many people coming out of the woodwork with their gifts, and so much good stuff is free.
Yes, very true. Yeah, we have no excuse.
We have no excuse, right?
So this is kind of with the mention of all these new online offerings being created, all the new creating that's happening right now. There's a ton of it, which is awesome. What sort of new beginnings are you seeing coming out of this time, and what things are you maybe feeling like it's time to shed off?
For myself?
Behind. Yeah, or in your practice, in your work, for yourself, what really jumps out?
God, it's really interesting. I've been teaching yoga for 12 years now, and for whatever reason, when we went to online, the weekly class that I've been offering, it just hasn't had that great of attendance. And as pretty much every yoga studio is basically just struggling to keep the doors open until they can actually open the doors. We agreed to take my class off the schedule for a while because she just everything has to be profitable right now. And to be frank, I was like not wanting to teach the class every evening that it was coming up because I wanted to be out in the yard more. So it was a blessing, but it was also like, if you had told me 2 months ago that I would be giving up my weekly class, like that has been such a part of my identity and part of such a reference point for who and what I am, it would have been traumatizing to me. But as it happened, I was just like, it's great. I want that time back to myself. It's all going to be different when we open the doors back up. It's not a loss. It's not me not doing well or failing in some way. It's just like, let's just flow our energy where it's flowing.
So it was a healthy parting.
And it didn't cause me angst.
That's, I think, a lot of people have had to deal with something parting or having an attachment threatened.
For sure.
Because of COVID.
A bunch of them.
A bunch of them on a number of different levels. So to be able to feel into that, look at it in the broader context of your life, to see that, there's new things arising for me that I want to invest more in. I can let go of this, appreciate it for what it's been, all the connection that's flowed from it, all the beautiful things that you've experienced, and allow it to transition. Is like a beautiful way of being in flow with what's happening around you, rather than like resisting it and creating suffering for yourself.
Anywhere that we've got resistance is just an opportunity to learn how to let go or to see ourselves more clearly. And all we have to remember is to just resist that urge to jump straight into the doing and the solving and the fixing. And the action part of it is to just let it be for a minute. Let me just see this and feel it. And just be okay in the discomfort of seeing it and feeling it. Because oftentimes we rush to fix and heal something without really having the whole picture. Right?
Totally.
So we just want to fix it. I want to get past this. I want to get on to the next good thing.
Oh man, yes. That hits me really hard on a number of levels, and I've experienced in the last few years of life, like when it's not common that I get like super triggered anymore. But when
nice?
It is nice. It's great. When you work hard on yourself, things start to happen. You don't get as upset. But when it does happen, I do feel that immediate need to like, okay, what am I going to do about this? I feel like there's the two standard responses are, there's the people that go into that mode, there's the people that just deny the reality and like can't cope with a big change like that. But both of those responses are different from what you just said, which is being with the thing and like being really present with it, your experience with it, feeling into it, so that you can allow some space to decide what you're going to do moving forward. So I think all of us can do that in our own way right now.
It's like permission to just be a witness to what's happening, a witness within your own self. And it sounds a little bit weird if it's new. A lot of teachers, a lot of healers are talking about this, is being able to be that sacred neutral witness for yourself, or the observer to the experience.
Is this what the cat does? So there's one more question I want to ask, and if you were to give us your 1,000-foot view of what is happening right now, what we're going through, what greater meanings behind what COVID is bringing and showing us, what would that be? We've touched on a lot of that already, but I would be very interested to hear, your perspective on that.
Well, I personally believe that this is a spiritual illness, and it is the spirit of not only the planet but of humanity. This isn't the first time that this has happened. And I think that if everybody just can calm down a little bit, and just really be present in their own life and stop watching so much of the media, will understand that it's not as terrifying, and it's nature, okay? It's nature, and a virus is a virus, and that doesn't have to be the end of humanity and the end of our lives.
Yeah.
Things are certainly different. There's a different level of awareness, but it's also showing us what we are. It's showing us how afraid we are as a people, and it's showing us how unhealthy we are. So this is the biggest invitation that the universe has offered in my lifetime for each and every person to really consider, how well am I caring for myself? So we need a lot of sunlight, we need exercise, we need to not be on screens listening to so many other people talking about things so much. Moving the body, cleaning and clearing, like cleaning up your diet, cleaning up your thoughts, cleaning up the people that you're around, right? I think everything's going to be fine, and you know, I'm sorry for the people that have been ill and lost their lives. That's also not anything that isn't happening every single day and every single season,
from a myriad of other
a
causes.
bunch of different. This is the flu with a really big PR effort. If you want to be honest about it, and we know that we're not getting all of the information. We know that.
Right.
I mean, we've never been more heavily policed and censored than we are being right now. And it's ironic because we've never been more online, so there's more energy going into that whole system. And so anytime you choose to engage with that energy exchange of being online, you have to consider that all of the information is out there in the cloud. It's being mixed, so it's dirty light that's coming back to us. So be very selective about what we watch and what we listen to and how much we're exposing. And you can set a personal protection around yourself and the device before you go on. So that it makes more intentionality. So it protects your own energy field more.
So I feel like that touches on the common thread that is kind of woven all throughout this discussion of really taking this time to carefully set a boundary around what you're taking in, and really focus, instead of focusing so much energy outward like our society really programs us to do, to set that boundary up, to turn it back in and just take a closer look, start cleaning it out, start feeling into what we need to do in order to just clean house, start over, reboot, start creating new things. I love it. It's great. I've certainly been doing it.
And you know,
and it's a messy process, but it feels great.
Life is messy. And it's showing us where, like, if it seems really, really hard to do any of these things, that in itself is showing you how much resistance is in your life and how many entanglements we've formed. You know, like if it's a lot of obligations financially with debt or with the car, with the house, and like, okay, well then that's an invitation to say, why have I gotten myself so tangled up in this thing of being wrapped up financially with so many obligations and like needing to have X, Y, and Z? Like, where does all of this even come from? The desire.
Gives you more insight into what to trim away.
Right.
Which is always a great feeling. So I think that's a great place to wrap, and a great place to leave people with some action, or just an approach to take away from this for what you could integrate into your life. But I would love for people to know where they could reach you or access your work, or how you can be available.
I'm about to release podcasts that I've been working on for the last 4 years, but my website is sacredvalleyhealingarts.com, and it's the same on Facebook and Instagram. Cool. I'll make sure to provide links and everything in the video notes. So I work here, but I also travel a lot. I do a lot of off-site work. So. Cool. And we did discuss before we rolled the tape here, perhaps bringing Connie up to Akron for some work. So that could be in the future here. Love to. Well, thank you so much. This has been great, and I'm going to watch this as I'm driving to my next stop and more fully unpack a lot of the wisdom you threw out there. Oh, cool. So. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.